My brothers and sisters wanauliwa Tanzania, peke yangu naogopa kutembea tu kwa njia. Waganga wana believe dosi come from my body parts, kitu wanapata tu ni dhambi when my soul departs. Hii mentality tulirudisha Afrika nyuma, tunaishi kizamani enzi atakuaga na manyumba. Uko na ngozi nyeusi but are you better than me? Chuo great tunapelekana utaezana nami. Nywele yangu na ngozi tu ndio tofauti yangu na we. Hiyo inaweza fanya tusipendane kati ya mimi na we. Songa karibu das na mimi shike mkono. Hii ni rangi tu sidanganye, mimi ni mtu normal. Uwe mzungu Mwarabu ama uwe Mchina, uwe Mjaluo Mkikuyu ama Argentina. Huu ndio wakati wa kucelebrate zetu tofauti. Tuje pamoja tuimbe wimbo, ongeza sauti. Hii ni storia, human race. Hii ni storia.
Hubert Nakitari, better known as Nonini, welcome to the JSO interview.
Thank you, shukran sana.
I wonder, your partner, Kabebi, what does she call you? Does she call you Nonini or does she call you Hubert?
Anitagi Nonini. She has a name for me that is between us, and it's special because it's our names that I don't want to reveal, but she has a special name for me.
And I believe that your child, like any other child, probably calls you Daddy.
No, my child is still a young one, turning 10 months. So, Bado is starting to utter words, ba, ba, ba.
Right, so good for you.
Yeah, thank you.
We began with a clip of a song that raised a certain amount of attention, Kala Kwa Face, focusing on the condition of people with albinism. Why this particular focus from you as a musician?
Because I think albinism or persons living with albinism was one area that has been ignored by the society. They're marginalized. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's like it's a taboo in the African tradition. So I wanted to be vocal about it because some are being killed in our neighboring countries like Tanzania, and then there's a lot of lack of awareness also in Kenya. They're discriminated against.
But I went back to the idea of you as a musician. Do you feel that surely one of your impulses will just be to make lots of money and to become rich and be done with it? Yeah. You've got a family, you've got responsibilities.
Yeah, true.
Why this focus on?
At some point in life, I feel like as a musician, there's more to just fame because you have that guy above to answer to. He gave you the fame, gave you all the talent and money. What did you ever do with it to change somebody's life? And plus, I was raised in a Jehovah's Witness background, something that people don't know.
So let's go back. This is a campaign where the aim is to have 20,000 tubes of sunscreen lotion to apply to different schools across the country that have kids with albinism. Why, could you explain to those who perhaps aren't aware why this sunscreen is crucial? Okay.
Because persons living with albinism, they find there's a problem with ultraviolet rays, in other terms, the sun. Right. The sun is always one of their biggest enemies because once the sun burns their skin, due to the condition, they don't have this melanin that is on our own skin that makes us dark. So they burn and all these ultraviolet rays eventually can bring cancer. And families that cannot afford sunscreen lotion, it's very vital for them to be supplied. Who's going to do that? I'm trying to do that because the families cannot afford to buy a lotion. It's expensive. It's like 1,000 bob. It's like a luxury thing for Azungus, but there's somebody who really needs a sunscreen lotion tube somewhere.
So I guess we would also note that the most famous musician with albinism would be Salif Keita.
Yep.
So have you met him? Is he aware of your activity?
I think he's aware of my activity. I've never met him, but I would love to meet him. I'd love to do a song with him. Right. That would be the best.
How long have you been at it, doing songs?
Music, it's 12 years now strong. In Genge, 12 years strong.
Yes. Yeah. 12 years?
Yeah.
And could you explain how you began, for those of us who may not be your initial fans but wish to become so soon? Okay. What's happened in those 12 years?
This whole thing was a dream. It began back in an estate called California. That's where I was born, Caliph. and I was in a studio called Caliph Records with Akina Clemo and Juakali. So we were recording music, but we never initially thought of it as a career. We were just kids from high school. We were doing it as a hobby, to pass time, because you're going to school, you're going to college, but you actually haven't determined what path your life wants to go. But within time, that's when the whole music started to shape your life, and you started to recognize that this is where you're supposed to be. There's that passion, and it shows you this is the direction you need to be. And that's how Genge started, in 12 years, still doing it as a career.
So there's this word that you brought into the conversation, and we discussed it slightly before we began the interview.
Yeah.
This whole notion of Genge.
Yeah.
Would you describe, and at one point you were the godfather of Genge, in much the same way that in my generation James Brown was the godfather of soul.
Yeah.
So we remember James Brown, JB, godfather of soul. You were the godfather of Genge.
Yeah.
What were you godfather of? What is Genge? Is it Rastafari? Is it a movement? Is it a religion?
No, back then when we were starting the music, Kenyan music didn't have any identity. It was just called local music. And I found that term very disrespectful. Local. Local is something local. It's something cheap. That's a local jacket. So we were looking for an identity for the song, for the music of Kenya. Because South Africa had theirs called Kwaito. So Clemo and Juakali, we sat down together, thought about an idea, and we thought, guys are listening to our music, and we're going out to the clubs, guys are coming out, they're supporting us. So Genge is actually a Swahili term that means many people, watu wengi converging together. So all these guys were supporting us. We decided to call our music Genge because a lot of people can relate to mziki yetu ya mtaani.
And you yourself, you would describe yourself as a Mgenge.
Yeah, meaning Mgenge, because now it has turned into a culture.
Right.
It's
manifested by what? Style of dress?
Style of dressing.
Way of speaking? Yeah. Way of eating?
Yeah, style of dressing, way of speaking, how you treat ladies. Yani, you're just real. When you're true, so you true.
Yes.
You're real with yourself. It does not matter if you have 1,000 bob, whether you have 50 bob. You just know how to use your 50 or 1,000 bob. Be real with yourself. That's the whole Genge culture.
But then you also have a reputation, and we heard an indication of that in the lyrics of your song, when you say, we misim Jaluo, misim Argentina, of being totally non-tribal. So tell us more. It seems that if you have a grouping that has its own ideals, it is to the exclusion of others. Isn't there a contradiction there? You're not tribal, but you've now decided to Mgenge. What about the rest of us who aren't?
Okay. Now, the whole Mgenge concept is very accommodating. Actually, I think it's the best concept in Kenya to fight tribalism, because it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter your color, doesn't matter your race. It's how you behave with your fellow brother, how real you are with your brother, that makes you a Mgenge. JSO and Mgenge. Sababu unajua this interview of yours, you ask real questions. Hiyo ni Ugenge. So it's not about a certain group. It accommodates everyone. The president ni Mgenge. President wetu elect ameingia saizi anaongeaga kiugenge akirelate na mayouth. So it's not excluding anyone. It's very inclusive.
Right. There's this language factor. There is this idea. For example, you are Nonini. Is there a significance to that, or did you just stick a succession of vowel sounds together and separate them with a consonant?
Nonini is it was a coincidence, basically. The whole name came as a coincidence because back in high school, a friend of mine was drawing something on the blackboard, and he called me and was asking me to read, because soma hapa no nini. It was something written with no, so it was like soma hapa no nini. So that term no nini was very interesting, and I had dreams of becoming a musician. So I told him, one day if I finish school, I'll call myself Nonini. And that's what happened. I finished school, got into music, and called myself Nonini and the song. So it's like a question, no Nini.
Right, I get it. I'm following slowly, but surely. Now, looking at this rather impressive curriculum vitae, 2012, MCSK Crossover Artist Award, Best Hip Hop Song, Kalo Cafe, which we've just seen a snippet of, 2012, Best Director Music Kisima Awards 2012 with the same song, two-time top earner MSCSK Royalties Artist 2013. Now royalties, people are playing your music and they're paying you royalties. And the statistic that's coming out is that Nonini earns in excess of 1 million shillings for his songs every year broadcast in the media. Congratulations, I take it on board.
Thank you.
But what interests me is that there are people in this society, there are politicians with huge tracts of land, businessmen owning factories, and nobody dares declare the billions which they possess. Don't you think that this is something which is, instead of something to celebrate, that people are shocked that somebody should make 1 million shillings? How do you respond to that?
First of all, it's not my will to disclose that, because obviously the newspapers have to get that and disclose it. I wouldn't disclose it publicly. But then again, there's this notion that is in people's minds that musicians don't make money. Basically, music, if you take it up as a career, you're doomed. And I think this came from our parents, while they were musicians, was the money, because we saw most of them. They're legends, but they had nothing to show for it. You get? So every time a musician makes a step, it always has to be highlighted. But I don't find that very... it's a positive thing, because now it shows parents that your kids, you can show your kids, you can be like Nonini.
Wale wazee kwa sababu sasa mimi pia ni mgenge, tuelewane. They were ripped off.
Yes.
They were ripped off because they deserved to make money, but nobody gave it to them.
Exactly.
So do you, looking at the larger industry, are you just lucky to be in this stratosphere of people who make 1 million shillings? Have people stopped being ripped off?
People are still being ripped off, and I'm not lucky. I'm just that I'm one of those guys who are changing the industry. We're making these structures work. Unlike the other people who came before us, were ripped off but didn't do anything. We are changing it because we want the better future for our kids. If your son or your daughter or your granddaughter or son wants to become a musician, atapata structures well laid by us guys.
Well, there could be the criticism within that the Music Copyright Society of Kenya, the MCSK, you're a member of that.
Yes.
And as an artist, you're a member of the board. And this strange coincidence, every single year you get the most royalties. So does that mean that they're making more of an effort? Yani money has been poured and you'll pata kitu. How do you respond to that?
JSO, there's a misconception, because MCSK is the Music Copyright Society of Kenya. It's for composers, authors, and publishers. Those are musicians. But I'm on the board. I'm at the board of a different organization. It's called PRISC.
Right.
Performers Rights Society of Kenya.
Right.
Yeah, PRISC. So people tend to think I'm earning money from MCSK because I'm at the board of MCSK. I'm not yet at the board of MCSK. I would love to be, because I see a lot of changes in that society, but I'm on a different board called PRISC, and there are two different bodies. PRISC is for performers. Right. Performers, not performers alone, performers and actors, because they represent works of artists with sound and a visual aspect to it. It can be musicians, it can be actors. But MCSK is purely artists, composers, and authors.
I would like to take the idea of international recognition. You came earlier and said that Kenyan, we were described as just having local music. We've got these international superstars. We've mentioned Salif Keita. We've heard the Yusundurs, the Baba Mals. And there's a huge swathe of equally big international names coming from other African countries. Have we as Kenyans got there yet? And if not, why not?
I think we're getting there, but we're not there quite yet, because one thing about Kenya, we're unique. Not even Kenya, East Africa. We're unique with this thing called Swahili. Because all these other countries, Nigeria, South Africa, they have pidgin English. That's what they speak. Most of East Africans speak Swahili. That's our dominant language. But now with the music, you find it doesn't cut across like the world internationally, because they cannot understand. But now the whole fight that I personally, as Mgenge, is I try to bring Swahili to the forefront. I listen to French music. I don't understand what they say, but I like the vibe. I would like the international market to pay interest to Swahili. What is this guy saying? But then again, we try to do it visually. With visuals, you don't have to understand what I'm saying. A visual video like Color Kwa Face is so inspiring that even if I sing it in Swahili, it still passes the message across. So I want it to be beyond language, and that's why we're slowly getting there. Unlike Nigerians who have a pidgin English, it's easy to understand what they're talking about.
Sort of, yes. And would you say, therefore, that the Tanzanian music industry is miles ahead in terms of creativity? Not necessarily in terms of, but in terms of compilations of songwriting or performance, that they're ahead of us by virtue of the fact that they have a longer association nationally with the Kiswahili language?
No, they're not quite ahead of us, because now you find now countries that are very into Swahili, the Swahili is in-depth in their music, they're quite below. They're quite like not on that pedestal with the international market. At least Kenya, we're exposed to English. Although I write my music in Swahili, Mwonge Swahili, I can write some, I can talk in English very well. But now in Tanzania, it's different, because even in school, they're raised more with Swahili. So the more you're into Swahili, the kidogo down you're on that level, and you need to fight even more to get to that international market, because now Swahili is different. Swahili is very deep. It's like Mombasa.
Right.
Artists from Mombasa, the Swahili is so different from Nairobi, because Nairobi you find our Swahili is sheng mixed with English here and there, but pure Swahili, it's hard for people to understand. So their fight is even greater than ours.
Is there a fraternity, a sorority of musicians? Do you get on? You've mentioned Juakali, but if you go across generations, are you feeding each other, supporting each other? If I were to say, are you great chums with Eric Wainaina? Are you great chums with Susanna Owiyo? Are you great chums with Winyo? Or is everybody in his own, you're in your genge enclave, sisi tuko hapa wa genge, tukae sisi tu vile tuko
Kivyetu.
Yes, kivyetu.
No, I think the industry has grown. The last 12 years, what we mentioned, those are petty issues that used to be there. Right now, they're not, because we respect each other. I respect Eric Wainaina's music. I respect Susanna Owiyo. I respect Red Sun. It doesn't matter your genre of music. As long as you're in the music industry trying to do it your way, I respect that.
There's the other thing about the fraternity, the larger grouping. There's more and more this idea of concerts for charity. We began this interview with this idea of giving back.
Yeah.
Are we going to be seeing more and more of this? Why don't we have a Sauti za Busara za hapa Kenya? Why Zanzibar? Because you said that they were having a greater struggle in Tanzania to make this language which they had mastered and had no traces of English to make it comprehensible to the great mass of people. But we don't have a Sauti za Busara. But there is one in, have you played that particular concert in Zanzibar, for example?
Yeah, I've applied before for Sauti za Busara, but they pick artists like all over Africa.
Right.
So the right time will come, they might pick you or not. So it's a fair game that goes on. But then again, it's this Sauti za Busara is most run by the Mzungu, if I might say so. I would love to see a festival in Kenya run all by Kenyans. A Mzungu doesn't have to come into a country to show us how to preserve our culture. I'd love it to be a Kenyan doing it. And Sauti za Busara is being done, but I can't say it's Tanzanians purely doing it. There's that
but the end
Mzungu
product,
touch.
the end product, I mean, that's universal is meant to be, music is meant to be, pardon me, a universal language.
Yes.
But you're taking issue with the organizer, the person who puts it together.
Yeah.
Am I incapable of being such a lover of Arabic music that I can put on a concert?
No, you're finding me wrong. Unaona kama tuseme issue yako, like a couple of months back I was in Big Brother Africa.
Right.
And I was surprised to see that everybody behind the camera was a Mzungu. Because this, as Africans, I think we have that level, we have that expertise to be doing this stuff. Why do you wait for Mzungu to come and show us what to do? We can do it. And that's the whole notion. Atufai kwa nangojea Mzungu aingia tuonyeshe vile tutafanya, tunaweza ifanya. Imagine hapa show ya JSO ingekuwa inashutiwa na Mzungu ndio ikuwe perfect. No, it's being shot by Africans. I love that.
Right. Okay. And travel, I know that you've been invited to give a talk in South Africa sometime. It's been postponed.
Yeah.
Next June, you're going to go and give a big speech.
Yeah.
You're going to perform, but you're going to give a speech about the nature of music industry in Kenya, I presume.
Yeah.
What are you going to tell the South Africans when you get there? Well, you haven't thought of your speech yet. What is unique? What is unique that's worth telling people about that you haven't told us already in the course of the interview?
I've never even done a speech ever in my life. So it's a challenge, number one. It was either to go perform or give a speech, and I think giving a speech would be much more powerful. It's about cultural diplomacy, and it's the African Union Conference happening in South Africa sometime in June, July. I'll give the speech because I want people to relate to Kenya, first of all, that we have youths and young people doing big things, and also giving back to Africa, not just Kenya, giving back to Africa, because things like color of face is not just a condition that affects Kenya, it's East Africa. And just seeing young people have a positive aspect on Africa is the best, because we are always reported by international medias, third world country, people kill each other. I would love to be an inspiration, not just to a Kenyan youth, but Africa. And I'd love to go on that pedestal and give a speech. I test myself without no teleprompter and see whether I can hack it and talk about my life, talk about my music, and talk about where I am right now as Nonini or Hubert Nakitari, and what am I doing to change my society. I would love to talk about that and see how that goes. It might touch somebody. You never know.
Mgenge.
Yeah.
Interview imekuwa true.
True mbaya sana. Kali.